Hey, good people, what's going on? I am Jaimi Alexander. Thank you so much for tuning in. And so, what you guys might have seen in one of my last videos is I did like a get ready with me while I was twisting my hair, but I was listening to an audiobook, and I'm doing that again in this whole slowdown. Instead of doing my hair, this time I'm coloring. So, if you guys want to color with me, you might have kids, get their stuff out, get your stuff out. You probably have your own coloring stuff. And today we are going to listen to the beginning of chapter 2 from Dondre Whitfield's book, Male versus Man. Okay, first of all, I am a big fan of Dondre Whitfield. If the name doesn't ring a bell and you don't know who it is, you're gonna have to Google later. But for those of you who have been a fan of Dondre for a long time, his book is now published and out, Male versus Man, where it really breaks down the difference and how not to get confused. So it's a book for men, but ladies, when we listen in, of course, we get that good tea. So I got my color pencils. My mom actually got me this coloring book. Inspirations. So let's listen in. I have to use this phone over here. All right.
Chapter 1.
Oh, chapter 1.
What is a man?
What is a man?
All too often, some of the most critical aspects of our lives require absolutely no formal training. Marriage and parenting, for example. You do not have to take a class to become a parent or even to marry someone, even though these are both lifelong commitments. No formal training is required for these monumental tasks, and unfortunately, many of us do not even seek out information that would be beneficial to us. The impact of these decisions will be significantly felt by all participants and will affect their overall quality of life for years to come. If a man university existed, the class that would be taught to qualify a male for marriage, parenting, and family life in general would be called Manhood 101. I can hear every woman who is listening to this book breathe a deep sigh of relief as she vigorously rubs her hands together in anticipation. And that's simply because for far too long, women have had to bear the infirmities of grown males who never matriculated into manhood. I'll explain the grown male concept in greater detail as we go. For now, let me briefly talk about the word matriculate and why I constantly use it in describing the process that a male goes through in maturing into his manhood. Merriam-Webster's definition for matriculate is to enroll as a member of a body, and especially of a college or university. To enroll in anything is a choice, and a male has to choose to enroll in the body of manhood, which will in turn mature him into a man. Additionally, this book will also serve as a metaphorical university aimed at providing a foundation for manhood. So when I say matriculate into manhood, I'm referring to the choice we all as males make to dedicate ourselves to earning the title of man. I want to stress here that we have to earn the title, not just have it freely given to us because we reach a certain age. Now, let's take a hypothetical stroll on the campus of Man University. Let's pretend for a moment that I have been appointed as the president of this institution of higher learning, and that I am also the professor for the Manhood 101 course. In university terms, this course would not be considered an elective. This indeed would be a required course for both grown males and men alike. I would begin my first lecture by explaining to the class that it is our mission here at Man U to turn males into men, to elevate men to their highest degree of manhood, and if women were to audit this class, to teach them how to readily identify a man in order to avoid dating or marrying merely a grown male. Our very first Manhood 101 lecture would cover information that can be found within the biblical story of Jesus Christ. To drive home the point, I would set up my projector and drop the screen down so that the students could see Christ modeling the example that all men should mirror: service over self. Paul the Apostle once identified Jesus as the ultimate example of servant leadership. Far be it from me to disagree with the apostle on that. Christ is the embodiment of God, or you might say God in the flesh. His life clearly reminds me that we were destined to embody the same qualities and purpose when we were created. In fact, Christ is my daily standard and the mechanism that steadies my course.
I like that. The mechanism
The
that
first
steadies
male.
my course.
I'm further reminded of my shortcomings and my susceptibility to them as I examine the Bible story of Adam in the Garden of Eden. God had given Adam explicit instructions that specifically explained which trees he could eat from and which ones he couldn't. Many people see Eve's offering of the fruit to Adam as unfortunate and blame her for Adam's failure. I am not one of those people. I deeply believe that Adam couldn't clearly see who he was as a man without the fruit, so he allowed his flesh to indulge. While he accepted it from Eve, I can imagine he did so because he was looking for something or someone to serve as his scapegoat in order to feed his need. While this may have been Adam's problem, it has become problematic throughout the history of mankind. As I alluded to earlier, many people have drawn the conclusion from the text that the woman, in this case, Eve, is the weaker vessel, or simply weaker than her counterpart, her husband, Adam. It has been my observation that women generally are emotional first. The many women I have encountered in more than half a century of life make me convinced this is accurate. These women include my mother, my grandmother, may she rest in peace, my wife, and my daughter, just to name a few. But again, that's generally speaking. Men, generally speaking, are physical first. We will certainly explore the potential for peril or peace in these differences later. All that being considered, a man must demonstrate that he is the stronger vessel by resisting anything that would lead him to become over-emotional or inappropriately physical. A man must make decisions out of an accumulation of facts and a logical application of them. As previously promised, let's cover the difference between being a man and being a male.
Okay.
My son, in these years of adolescence, often finds himself asking his mom for anything and everything he could otherwise get for himself. She and I could be sitting in close proximity to one another, but he always makes a beeline for my wife. Mom, can you get me some grapes? Mom, can you get me something to drink? Mom, mom, mom. Why is that? Simple. He knows she will serve him no matter the request. My son, despite my daily example of manhood, is in the midst of maleness. That's acceptable right now because he's a boy.
A kid.
He lacks the full development of the prefrontal cortex a male typically possesses. The prefrontal cortex is the region of the brain used for complex cognitive behavior, personality expression, decision-making, and moderation of social behavior. The book of 1 Corinthians reminds us, when I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. The ways of grown males are usually those of a child, and children constantly want to be served. My son knows I would have him do things for himself whenever possible, not because I don't love him or because I don't serve him as well. I do love him. However, my job is to get him to learn how to serve himself as he prepares to become a godly servant who ultimately begins to serve others.
There we go.
With anything we want to become good at, we have to be diligent about doing the appropriate amount of reps.
Choices.
In other words, my job is to make sure he gets practice at being self-sufficient. I often say, when we enable a boy, we disable a man.
Same goes for us when
As
we
his
date these
manhood
guys,
drill
ladies.
instructor, I am responsible further to keep drilling home the ways of a man so that when he is no longer an adolescent, he will be prepared to matriculate into manhood.
Yes.
However, it is vitally important for him to complete his boyhood first. Completing his boyhood allows him to elevate his mind and spirit in a timely fashion.
Yeah, give him time.
Moth to a flame. Boys who come from an environment that would like them to be responsible enough and strong enough to be a man are often urged to act like one without the necessary skill sets to be one. They sometimes come from backgrounds where the father is missing or inactive in the home, and a man's supplement is needed. The pressure to act like a man can cause the kind of trauma to a boy that scars him and scares him out of ever getting prepared to be a man. When a boy is told he is the man of the house, or moth, simply because no other males are present, it is often confusing and frustrating. Many young males in my neighborhood who had absent fathers were given the moth title because no other male was present, and many of them never recovered from it. Think about how traumatizing it was for them to be given a title and expectations that they did not possess the skill sets to fulfill.
It's a lot of weight.
As the moth, devoid of the power to make key decisions about the direction of the household or the tools to formulate them, and frequently chastised by their female parent, many of my friends were left feeling powerless in the place they called home, often viewing the woman of the house as someone they would be in battle with and not in partnership with. This is a common phenomenon that rarely gets examined. The moth is assigned to a house that will burn him due to the flames, the fires that often flare up in unbalanced households. His mother has dubbed him a man, but will shame him for not performing like one in the hopes that it will activate him to become one. Rarely does it ever happen. It leaves many of our brothers feeling as though they will never be able to live up to the title of man because no one ever explained that manhood isn't an age or a title that someone gives you to fill a void. Rather, it is a collection of skill sets and a dedication to service. When boys are forced to abandon their boyhood because they've been told to act like a man, they simply become actors, pretenders in the ways of manhood. And just as a gentle reminder, this acting usually happens when a mother who has no man in the home needs to have a functioning male helper to contribute to the inner workings of the house. Some moms think that if they give their son the title of man, it will magically activate it. This is how boyhood gets stolen from young boys trying to become the men who are missing from their families. One can compile a long list of pop singers, athletes, actors, and high-profile people in general who were forced to abandon their boyhood to act like men or to be the moth. The effects are catastrophic and usually irreversible.
Catastrophic and irreversible.
What is a man? We now come to the cream of the crop. Man. A grown male and a man are polar opposites. They are like magnets with the same pole that repel and oppose each other. A male who is grown is stuck in the mentality of a boy and generally looks to be served. A man, simply put, is a male who generally looks to be of service. Let's pause for a minute and let that sink in. A male seeks to be served. A man seeks to be of service. These two entities could not be more opposite. A man is the industry standard of males. He is the standard bearer who covers every woman and child in his life. Notice that I didn't state that he covers only his woman and his children. A man is a walking tree that provides proper cover from all of the elements in the world that bring harm to his village, or his tribe. His daily mission is to choose service over self and deny his flesh that is looking to derail and betray him. Manhood is not finite. There are levels to this. Manhood is like a martial art. Even when you've learned to like your manhood, there are higher and higher degrees of it that you should seek to achieve. In martial arts,
it's an action.
Most people are trying to achieve the rank of a black belt. However, the black belt is not the destination. It simply becomes a small portion of the journey. There are first degree black belts, second degree, third degree, and so on. There are even grand masters. Many males give up on the practice of manhood because the pursuit of it, much like a martial art, is endless. Becoming a man is the expectation of every male who is ever born. Unfortunately, some never get the information necessary to achieve man status, while many never actually apply the information they do receive.
Wow.
But I digress. Meanwhile, back at Man U, I will pick up my lecture by writing one...
Oh, my speaker died. I kind of knew that was going to happen. Okay. Well, this is a good point to stop at. What did you guys think of the material? I absolutely love the way Dondre Whitfield breaks things down. And he also shares in the beginning of the book that even though he uses biblical references and things like that, the Bible and God, and that's his anchor. But whether you believe in, it's kind of the same thing I see, universe or this or that. It's not about preaching the Bible all the time, even though that's our anchor. That's what we believe in and, you know, grow from. You can still take the principles that are given and plug them in and still get the same understanding, even if that's not your religion, so to speak. Just to put that disclaimer in there. But I love the way he breaks down the difference between male and man. So a male looks to be served while a man looks to be of service. And I know that is two different things. I mean, ladies, when it comes to dating, or those of you who have sons or anything, like, we know when a guy's acting like a kid. And it's just kind of like, oh, and you know, playing video games or doing certain things, I don't know. Some of it is cool as long as there's a time limit, I guess. I don't really know how that works, but all that to say is, you know, when you're dating someone that just kind of expects you to do everything like you're their mom almost. So he made that liken into his son, like, Mom, can you get me grapes? Mom, can you? So we know we've all ran into bigger versions of humans that look like men, but are more like males because they're just, you know, not really looking to be of service. It takes discipline and a plan, a vision, a purpose, something to anchor you and guide you to be of service. You have to be able to sacrifice something because that's not easy. It's not the easy road out. And that goes for everybody when it comes to being of service, but we're just talking about the book. I really enjoyed it and I was coloring while I was doing it. Ooh. I'm going to keep adding to this one. It says, I want to be wild, beautiful, and free, just like the sea. So I've had the ocean on my mind. Sea, ocean, I've had a body of water on my mind today. But yes, again, hope you guys enjoyed that little excerpt. Male versus man. Obviously, I have the Audible version, but it can be ordered as well. I'm going to continue to listen to it, and maybe I'll come back with something that I've learned and can share with you guys about the book. But cop it for yourself because so far so good, right? All right, guys, have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will holla at you later. Peace.